Namaste, Bhante.
Good evening, everybody out there in Zoom land.
Doing.
Hello, Victoria, you can finally join us. So everybody can hear me out there, right?
Yes, Bhante.
Okay, so let's go ahead and start with reciting the Namo Tassa and Three Refuges for those who like to join. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami, dhammang saranang gacchami, sanghang saranang gacchami, dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami, dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami, tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami, tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami, tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Well, good evening, everybody, to this Wednesday evening Dhamma discussion and meditation practice. So I hope all of you were able to got the mailing I sent out and it read through the Sabhasava Sutta. So last week we went over the first way, or probably the most important way of beginning to overcome the defilements of the mind. So sabhasava means all of the asavas. Asava means it's translated in different ways, but basically it means greed, hatred, and delusion, and all of the spin-off negative, unwholesome mental traits that gives rise to our unskillful actions of body, speech, and thoughts. So today we want to continue on with the rest of going through the rest of the 7 ways of removing those defilements. So the seeing, what we covered last week, basically it means developing insights, and in the highest sense, it means attaining stream entry. But it means, the insights that help you understand the anicca, dukkha, and anatta, and also the difference between wise attention and unwise attention. But it means seeing the Four Noble Truths, and that's when you really see them is when you attain stream entry in the deepest level. But before that, basically through the regular practice of meditation and so on, that's the way you gain insights. So now the second way of removing the negative thoughts and actions and speech is through restraining the six senses. So, the world comes to us through the six senses, from what you see, hear, smell, taste, feel with the body, and think about. And those are, coming moment by moment through the senses. And we react to those things. We react with our conditioned liking, disliking, greed, anger, hatred, delusions. We act by our speech and with the bodily actions and producing other thoughts. So restraining is, not allowing the mind to get, carried away with those sensory contacts. But on a very practical level, it would mean like observing the 5 precepts. So we restrain our senses by, not harming or killing things, or not, stealing or telling lies or other forms of wrong speech, and restraining ourselves, by, sensual lust and breaking a precept, the precept about the sexual misconduct, and also restraining ourselves from wanting to intoxicate the mind. So restraining in the actual physical restraining is by observing the precepts, we restrain the actual physical reaction, such as if a mosquito is biting you and you see that urge to want to kill it. So you have to restrain the hand from raising up and swatting the mosquito. Okay, that's one example of restraining. Or if you want to blurt out some negative speech towards somebody, you restrain yourself from that. So the precepts, by taking the precepts, it helps to restrain at least the physical reactions. But then at the same time, you have to restrain the mind from indulging in the desire to indulge in those sorts of, especially the negative actions. So everything begins with the mind, but the mind is harder to control than the body. So the precepts helps you to restrain the actual committing of the karma. And then by being successful in doing that, by practicing mindfulness and being able to see those urges before they carry you away, before they trigger off your actions of speech or the body, then we can restrain ourselves. If you've taken the precepts, it's kind of like a forcibly restraining yourself, like to swat that mosquito. You may still like to do it, but at least you restrain the physical action, which then produces the karma, and then the result of that. But through the mindfulness, then we also have to learn to restrain our thoughts that give rise to the physical actions, because the body can't lift the arm up by itself. There has to be that mental command to move the body to do it, and so that comes from our thoughts. So because once we commit the action, we can't take it back, and committing the karma is actually the becoming of the action of becoming, which is one of the 12 links of dependent origination that we'll talk about later. So, but for practical purposes, that's why observing the precepts is considered to be a very important part. I mean, the first three, the steps 3, 4, and 5 of the Noble Eightfold Path are practicing right speech, right action, and right livelihood, which is basically restraining ourselves from committing those negative types of karma that hurt others and hurt ourselves. But it also includes the practice of mindfulness, to restrain yourself even while you're meditating, to restrain yourself from indulging in your negative thoughts, like the plot to get revenge from somebody who hurt you, or in entertaining lustful thoughts, or so many other types of, those kind of what are considered negative thoughts. Okay. So that is probably one of the hardest parts to actually do in an actual practice, because, especially for people who don't meditate, but because we need mindfulness for that. We'll talk more about that as we go on. But the seeing, what we, in the first stage, by seeing means you've already developed some level of mindfulness, at least. So, and the ability to have wise attention and unwise attention, to know the difference between wise attention and unwise attention, and getting some insight. So all of that will help you to apply the restraining, because even if you've reached this level of a sotapanna, you still have those urges maybe to do, so a lot of those negative things, not enough to, anyway, that's another subject. But okay, now coming to number 3, how to overcome defilements by using them. And this is especially kind of addressed for the monastics. By reflecting before you use any of the 4 requisites. The 4 requisites are material food, clothing, lodging, and medicines. So, people abuse all those things, right? They go to the extremes. They get very addicted to food. They want to have nice clothes and show off, or whatever. Have to have change their clothes every single day, and want to join all the fads and so on. And so we get to increase our desires for those things. And then the houses, people want bigger houses, or modern houses, and so on, and as well as the medicines, people being so addicted to medicines that they're taking so many different kinds of medicines, instead of trying to find more natural remedies and cures for things. So all of these are, make the mind kind of more, keep it more, indulgent and so on. So how do you use those? So like, we use it wisely. Like, before we eat, the monastics are supposed to reflect, okay, this body needs material food in order to live. And I want to live longer because I want to attain at least the stage of sotapanna or more before I die. And death is impermanent. We don't know when we will die. So we can't wait and procrastinate our practice, thinking I'll practice later. I'll wait to attain stream entry when I retire. Or you might be dead before that. Or at least, okay, attaining stream entry, some of you might think that's a little too advanced for you, but at least making progress in weakening your greed, hatred, and delusion. So you reflect on that, and you take food like medicine. Like people normally, they don't overtake the medicine because if, you read on all the medicine bottles, right? Only take 1 or 2 per day or certain dosage. And it says don't take more than the dosage. Because if you do, that can make you sick or cause other problems, cause complications. So the same way, overeating or getting addicted to food and maybe consuming just for the taste, you want to consume, processed foods, foods that have more sugar in them or some things like that, right? So, we're following our greed in doing that. So by reflecting, I take this food mindfully, not for beautifying the body and not for taste, but using it as medicine in order to keep the body healthy enough and have the strength to continue our practice. So that's the way that you use the food for overcoming the craving for the food. And in the same way, the same with the clothing. Whatever you're covering the body with, we're covering the body in order to keep it from either getting too hot or too cold, by putting appropriate kind of clothing for the weather. And then, but not using it for fashion and, try to impress others and, these fashion shows, anyway, I think you know what I mean. But anyway, so we just use the clothing, for the minimum. People want to buy new clothes, expensive clothes. They want to impress others. Then we have to work harder to get the money to do that. Or people go out and steal clothes from the clothing shops, and then they get caught and then get in trouble. You see, so there's a reflection on using that. Just get clothes that are adequate. You can get them from even the Goodwill. They don't cost too much. No, but people need all this new stuff because of all the pressures. But anyway, I'm not saying that, you should all start wearing Goodwill clothes and so on. But the thing is, but these are for monks primarily, these reflections. But lay people can also do good to reflect on them to a certain extent. And in the same way with the lodging. Just live in a comfortable place. You don't need the most modern thing and the biggest house and all these things, because all that takes more money. You have to work harder. You got to work through jobs to afford all these things. So that on a practical level, that's a good thing. So anyway, and then the medicines too, not abusing medicines and just take them in order to, try to maintain a good health or overcome an illness if you need to. So this is the way that we help to overcome the craving and addiction to these material things: food, clothing, lodging, and even medicines. To minimize the kind of worry and problems that happen when you use them in excess. And you also learn to develop more contentment. And then there's enduring. So you overcome the defilements by enduring. And that means, having patience, and to, especially in meditation, to endure pain. So one of the training in, mindfulness practice is to, when you feel the pains coming on and while you're meditating, to endure it and know that, okay, these painful feelings arising, most of them are not going to kill you or cripple you or cause any real harm. Okay, they're painful, but so what? Or they're unpleasant. But you can endure them a little bit longer. The main thing, you endure a little bit longer until you reach a kind of a threshold, and then you endure it 1 minute longer. before you may change your posture. And little by little, you keep enduring. Not only physical pains, but in sounds. You're meditating, and maybe some people are talking, and you notice yourself getting angry, and you can send them metta, or just endure that. Be aware of just hearing, just hearing. Nobody hearing, nothing heard. This is part of the vipassana reflections in practicing the mindfulness. Or any of the other annoying things that come, smells, because none of these things are really going to really harm you or, anything like that. It's just that we become so, addicted to comfort and wanting to control everything. We get easily annoyed by things that really, most of it is no big deal, and so you just endure it, and then you experience impermanence, because when you endure something, while you're enduring it 30 seconds more, it vanishes by itself. So when you endure things, it helps to see impermanence, because by enduring it 30 seconds longer, 1 minute longer, it's going to vanish anyway. Maybe you're meditating, some people are talking, so you're getting annoyed by the sound. Then maybe you're saying, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go to the window, I'm going to shout at those people to be quiet. And then they might, of course, start screaming at you back and maybe even pull a gun and shoot you. So you endure it. Okay, hearing again, as I just mentioned. And then just before you might get up, they stop. Everything went silent. And you say, oh, that sounds impermanent. Yeah, why should I get upset? It's gone. Or the same with something else. So that is the way that you help to overcome the annoyance, anger, or other negative reactions to things by enduring, especially these unpleasant things, like the touch of flies and mosquitoes. People get so, annoyed by that, or they just want to swat and kill every spider or cockroach that comes in their house, and creating a lot of unwholesome karma. When you can just you can learn to endure these things a little longer, and so that's how. But especially in meditation, it means enduring like the pains that come up in meditation, or disturbing sounds, or other things that may be disturbing, in your meditation, but also in the daily life. Like you can practice metta as a way of enduring. Like somebody cuts in line in front of you in the supermarket, right? And you notice yourself getting upset. You want to say something to them. Instead, have compassion. Oh, okay, maybe the lady needs to get home and cook her dinner, her kids, or home, or they're hungry, and so come on, she's not going to endure or whatever. You can send metta anyway, at least, or other distractions. So that's the way that we try to overcome, especially the anger or other negative states, by enduring. And then the fifth of these ways is by avoiding. And this means avoiding dangerous places or people where you know that there could be some problems. So especially the Buddha gave these things for monks. That's why there's rules against monks by going to attend big gatherings like protest marches, or gatherings where the probability of some fights erupting or some other negative things might happen, or they get in trouble or get hurt by that. So avoid. Or if you have strong addictions, so if you have a tendency, if you're trying to stop drinking, then don't go walk down the streets past liquor stores and bars. avoid those places, or avoid people that are trying to lure you to break your precepts. Avoid this kind of people or places or anything else that sort of tempting. Don't expose yourself to these kind of places where you still have some weaknesses that that could cause you to do something that you don't really want to do. So you avoid those places, avoid the dangerous places, so you don't get injured unnecessarily, or the chance of getting caught up in some dangerous situation, right? A big fight or something. So that's how you overcome some defilements, by avoiding. But it's mainly the ones that you have attachment to. If you know you have attachment to food, then don't go walk down the street where all the pastry shops are, or other places. You could avoid it. Take another street, and that way it won't. Those temptations won't be so strong. Until you've developed to a degree where exposure to those things wouldn't bother you in the slightest. But until you reach those levels of, a once returner or a never returner, then probably, everybody could be tempted by those things. So anyway, again, these advices were given toward the monks especially, but lay people can also take that into consideration. Now, the sixth one is overcoming the thoughts of sensuality or lust, ill will, and harming. So that's by driving them out of the mind when they come into the mind, to drive them out of the mind, like applying the 5 ways of eliminating the distracting thoughts. And maybe I'll go over that sutta, maybe next week. There's 5 ways of eliminating distracting thoughts, and on the when they are occurring in you, but you only totally overcome them, of course, when you reach the higher stages. Now, so it's applying the right effort to abandon thoughts of sensuality, ill will, cruelty. Again, these are part of the right thoughts. Second step of the Noble Eightfold Path are right thoughts. By developing the thoughts of non-greed, non-ill will, and non-harming, is the way that it helps to eventually overcome those thoughts. But if they do come up, to apply the appropriate antidotes rather than just kind of letting your mind, indulge in those kind of unwholesome thoughts. Now, the 7th step, the 7th way of overcoming the defilements. So now these steps that I've mentioned, like from number 2 to number 6, those are the things that we are doing day by day, whether it's out there in the world by, restraining your senses, enduring things, avoiding dangerous places, and then, in the sort of the external world, but then also restraining the senses and overcoming them, in your mind through the practice of mindfulness. And then the 7th of these steps is developing, the defilements that are removed from developing. So now this refers to the 10 fetters that bind the mind to the wheel of birth and death. Most of you have heard of the 10 fetters. We've talked about it several times in past Dhamma talks. And the first three are eliminated by seeing, by attaining stream entry. You eliminate by developing the factors of awakening. So developing actually means cultivating the 7 factors of enlightenment, which lead to the attainment of the 4 stages of enlightenment, which destroy the 10 fetters. I'm not going to go into all of them now, but basically the develop means you're developing the 7 factors of enlightenment more than what you already have when you were started by the seeing. So the first one, abandoned by seeing, is abandoning the defilements to the point of attaining stream entry, but then developing the rest of the path, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th stages to enlightenment by developing the 7 factors of enlightenment. And I think most of you know what those 7 factors of enlightenment are. They're mindfulness, investigation of Dhamma, then energy, because as you're investigating, you gain energy. I've given a whole talks on that before. I'm not going to repeat all that right now. And then by that energy brings joy, because you're getting deeper insights. That energy you're putting in, you could stay up even enduring the pain. You could meditate for 1 or 2 or 3 or even more hours enduring pain and other things, because you're getting this joy and energy from this investigation of Dhamma. And then, and while you're doing that, you gain concentration and equanimity, which are the factors, the 6th and 7th factors of the factors of enlightenment, where then it is possible to reach the higher level. So it means developing means going on to develop after that initial development. You go on to eliminate the rest of the the fetters or other defilements in the mind. Now, I wanted to. There's one of the people who is normally attends this program, although I don't think they're on here tonight. They sent in a reflection, and there's 2 pairs of these opposites. One is the avoiding and using contrasts with destroying and developing. So on one hand, we want to avoid going to places that bring harm and so on. But on the other hand, there's this, destroying those defilements. So how can we destroy them if we avoid them? And using them instead of destroying them, we use them, and by avoiding them and developing them. Anyway, these 2 things seem to be kind of opposing each other, but they're not really. So avoiding and using. So on one hand it says avoid these things, on the other hand it says use them. So these are actually the opposites, avoiding and using. And then the other pair of opposites is destroying and developing. So you avoid those things that are bringing harm, but then you use other things in a skillful way to help remove the defilements. And then with destroying those defilements that come into the mind, or destroying maybe is a kind of a harsh word, but overcoming them, and then developing. So we're destroying some defilements, and we're then developing other the wholesome things, destroying the negative defilements and developing the wholesome ones that help us to eliminate those defilements. So anyway, friends, I hope you can go back and read that sutta. So now I want to open it up and see if there's any if you have any questions on any of those. Doesn't seem like there's oops. Where's the chat box? Can't seem to find that chat box. There's nothing in there. Okay. Anyway, okay, there's a yellow hand. I see a yellow hand up there. So so Damon, you have a
Thank
question.
you. Yes, Bhante, you've made several references to something called Sotapanna.
Yes.
I understand that means stream winner or stream entrant. And you said when one should avoid certain things until one becomes a stream entrant. So whether I become a stream entrant, am I the one to decide that I've achieved stream entry, or are there criteria that I can rely on, or should I ask you whether I've attained it?
No, there are criterion. And the definition of somebody who's reached stream entry is that they had a clear and full glimpse of no self. And so they overcome the belief in a self. So that's the first fetter, is called the belief in a self. I mean, that thinking that their I inside is some kind of permanent little atom of their consciousness, it's their permanent self and doesn't change. So we've already talked about the baby who is not born with a sense of self, and the sense of self is an acquired phenomenon due to ignorance and the conditioning of society and so on. So when you have that initial glimpse of emptiness, you see how momentarily the sense of self dissolved. I mean, it's a very clear and a profound experience. And now you're convinced that the self is an illusion. And so you don't have any more doubts about it. So you no longer believe that there's some permanent or eternal soul or self that's going to be with you for eternity and eternity. Even if you go to heaven, it'll be with you in eternity, or somewhere else. These different beliefs that are some religious beliefs, right? So, and you overcome doubts about it. You also overcome any lingering doubts about whether the Buddha was enlightened, or doubts about whether a person could actually reach enlightenment, because to reach that state of Sotapanna, you would have had to do a lot of practice, and you would be seeing the results of that practice. So your doubts about the Dhamma, the Buddha and the Dhamma, there are overcome. So those are two: belief in a self and doubts are overcome. And then also the third one is belief in rites and rituals. That means in India there was beliefs that if you just bathe in the Ganges river, that would somehow purify your past karma, or purify your defilements and allow you to be reborn, attain moksha. or circumambulate around holy mountains. There's lots of, religious beliefs, or just believing, reciting the mantra, the name of a god or something else, that God is going to save you or something. So these are called belief in rites and rituals, that you no longer believe that any external rite or ritual is going to purify your mind. You see that it has to be done from the inside out, by yourself, really. So that is the third of these 10 fetters that are overcome when you reach. So you can investigate. If you still have doubts, you haven't reached. If you still, overcoming the belief in a self doesn't mean you don't have a self feeling of a self. There's still, you still have the sense of I, me, and mine, and but you know it now. You know it's an illusion, and you consciously work to, trying to weaken it as those in the developing stages. The rest of your practice is removing, weakening that sense of self more and more and more until it's finally overcome. In the final stage. So that's,
Okay, so self and belief in the Dhamma and doing away with rites and rituals, 3 things.
Yeah. Now, it
Okay,
doesn't mean rites and rituals may not serve a purpose, but believing that doing those alone will purify your mind.
Okay.
Now, Buddhists may, do some rituals, but they still do meditation. Or, a Buddhist, like you might think my bowing to the Buddha or chanting is a rite and a ritual. Okay, it may be, but I don't believe that alone is going to take me to enlightenment. But it helps to motivate me to practice meditation, which then can help bring the mind to enlightenment. So, they have to be done in a skillful way, but it's believing that these things alone will save you, so to speak.
Okay, thank you, Sadhu.
Okay, Michael, you have a yellow hand up.
Yes, Bhante. Thank you for answering my question, because I know you will. I always think about the hindrances, the underlying tendencies, the defilements, the fetters, and the taints, and how I should approach them and how I should overcome them. So I've decided to use Vipassana meditation along with Samadhi, the Noble Eightfold Path and the 7 Facets of Enlightenment to attack them. So my approach is to address the hindrances, the underlying tendencies, then the defilements. And if I attain the super mundane path, I will be able to overcome the fetters and eventually the taints. It just seems to me that one has to think about how to approach them and in what order to be successful. What's your opinion?
I would follow the way the Buddha explained it. Start with right understanding, getting a good intellectual understanding. Then you go on thinking about the Dhamma, thinking about it, reading more and more, getting more understanding. And then at the same time, you don't have to wait a long time before you do the others, but you start practicing right speech, right action, right livelihood, and meditation too. You don't have to practice one and then start the other one later. The Dharma wheel is a wheel, right? So you have to work on all those spokes, kind of together. But until you get right understanding, you may not know how to effectively integrate and practice the other things. So the right understanding normally, comes first, and then you get motivated then to start practicing, but you have to go on thinking about the Dhamma. And then the same way with the 7 factors of enlightenment. Start with mindfulness of breathing, and then go mindfulness of the body. And then when you get centered in the body and the breathing, you gaining concentration through that. Then you practice, the feelings and the mind states, and then the 7 factors of enlightenment. And in that time, you're weakening the hindrances, you're weakening the defilements, you're practicing all those things we just were talking about, the 7 ways, and developing the rest of the path.
So the Noble Eightfold Path, the 7 factors of enlightenment, or the 37 factors of enlightenment. I guess you could also say those.
All those things are included in the 37 factors of enlightenment. When you start practicing one, basically you're kind of working on all of them. There's 5 spiritual faculties, the 4 foundations of mindfulness, 7 factors of enlightenment, the right efforts. So all those 37 factors of enlightenment, if you practice the Noble Eightfold Path in its entirety, those include really all those 37 factors of enlightenment, because even the right concentration and so on at the end.
Thank you, Bhante.
Can't go wrong.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, friends, so I don't see any more yellow hands up there. So let's take a little break and come back and do some yoga and then sit down for our meditation. Okay?
Bhante, there are chat questions.
Bhante,
Well, we're running out of time here. What's the chat? I don't see anything in my chat box here.
how do you put how's it worked with the yellow hand? I don't know how to put the yellow hand up. Where is it?
I never figured that out myself.
Okay.
Because
Well, then
If you click on reactions, it will show your hand.
Figure it out.
Reactions at the bottom,
Yeah, but I couldn't.
raise hand.
Sometimes I couldn't figure it out. So I'm in the same boat as you, Frank. I don't even know how to use yellow hand, but I'm glad some of you know how. And that's why I say, if there's no more yellow hands, you can ask a question. Anyway, we need to go on because otherwise we'll get late in our meditation practice. So save those questions for next week. And hope next week we'll try to cover the 5 ways of removing distracting thoughts, which is number 19 in the Majjhima Nikaya, but I'll send out next Monday a link to that sutta. Okay? So let's take a short break.
Sadhu.
Okay, friends, so try to stand straight, relax your shoulders and arms at the sides. Just gently close your eyes. Just feel the eyes in the socket. From that point on the eyes, try to feel the outline of the body. Can't feel the outline of the body, at least just feel either your head or your feet or your hands. You begin some deep, slow breathing. Just your focus on your breathing. It takes the three-part breathing. Drawing the air into the upper lungs, holding the air in for 2 or 3 seconds, and slowly let out the breath. And feel the last bit of air go out of the lung. Just take a few more deep breaths like that, developing this mindfulness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Now we're going to combine this breathing with these movements that we've done before. So on the next in breath, raise the arms over the head, interlock your fingers, turn the palms up, straighten the arms, stretch your head back, stretch upward. On the out breath, turn the palms down, touch the top of your head. Again, in breath, palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the head back, bend backwards a little bit. Feel the sensations. Out breath, touch the top of the head. Third time, hold the upward stretch longer. Bend back a little more. Stretch upwards, backwards. Feel the sensations with the arch in the spine. On the out breath, release the fingers. Lower the arms back to the sides of the out breath. Close the eyes. Try to feel the outline of the body. Can't feel that, at least feel the increased pulsations in your hands and fingers. Just remember standing, standing, standing. Gradually bring your mind back, center it in the breathing body, feeling the sensation. On the next in breath, lift up on the toes while raising the arms over the head in this way, facing the hands toward each other. Stretch up. Out breath, come back down. Use the in breath to lift up the body, like blowing up a helium balloon, the body rises up. Out. Once more in. Out. Close the eyes, just keep feeling the body, the increased body sensations. The head balanced on top, arms at the sides, legs and feet pressing the floor. Just remember standing, standing. Letting go of your thoughts. Let the thoughts come and go in the back of the mind. Keep the sensations of the breathing body in the front of the awareness. So next we'll do side bending. On an in-breath, raise both arms up. Keep your fingers and arms straight, close to your head. On the out-breath, bend over the right side as far as you comfortably can. Keep the arms and hands parallel to each other like railroad tracks. In-breath, lift up. And to the other side on the next out-breath. In-breath. Keep alternating sides with the breathing out-breath. In. Out. In. Once more to each side, out. In. Out. On the out breath, lower both arms, close the eyes, keep feeling the body, increased aliveness, pulsation. Remember standing, feel the clothes touching the outer skin, feeling the subtler life force sensations under the skin. Letting go of the thought, let them come and go in the back of the mind. Next we'll do the knee bending. On the in-breath, again lift up on the toes and raise the arms up front for balance. On the out-breath, bend the knees and lower the body down, balancing on the balls of the feet. You come down into the squatting position if you can. On the in-breath, feel the muscles in the legs pushing the body up. All the way up on the toes. Again, out breath, lower down. In. Out. In. The out breath, lower the arms, close the eyes. Feel the outline of the body. Feel the increased heart beating. Remember standing, standing, standing. Repeating the word standing to yourself helps to create that mental perception, outline, standing body. Okay, now spread the legs apart. Wider the better, or at least 3 feet. And hold the arms out to the side. We'll do the twisting from right to left. Breathe in. On the out breath, twist to the right. Keep your eyes focused on the hand going back. The in breath, come back to the front. Let your feet turn with the body and then go to the other side with the next out breath. In breath. Again to the right out breath. Once more to each side. Come back to the front, and lower the arms, close the eyes, feel each foot pressing the floor, feel the outline of the body, hands hanging at the sides, clothing touching the skin. Head and face, feel the eyes in the socket. Remember standing, present moment of the body. Now we're going to do the alternate toe touching. Hold the hands out, the sides. And on an out breath, bring your left arm across and down to touch your right leg below the knee, or as far down as you can reach, if you can, to touch the foot. Then look up at your other hand over your head, straight over the head. Turn the head to look up the hand. And come back up on the in-breath. And then go to the other side with the next out-breath. In-breath. Keep alternating sides. And out-breath. Going to stretch a little bit further with each time. Out. Once more to each side. Relax. With the increased heartbeat. Feel the outline of the body. Feeling the clothing touching the outer skin. Sensations under the skin. Heartbeat, pulsation. Tingling sensations. Aches or pains. Remember standing. Now bring your legs back together. Keep your feet a few inches apart. We'll do head turning from right to left. On in breath, turn your head to the right as far as you comfortably can. Look over your right shoulder. In the out breath, turn the head 180 degrees back to the left, to look over the left shoulder. In breath to the right. Concentrate into the neck vertebrae. Turn your eyes further to the right to see something further behind you. Out breath, left. Turn your eyes to the left. In breath, right. Out, left. In right. So let the head stop in the middle. Feel the whole body. Remember standing. There's one more exercise of backward and forward bending exercise. You have to be careful with the back bend, especially with this one. We've done a back bend before, keeping the legs apart. This is keeping the legs close together. So you want to hold the palms of your hands so they're facing outwards. And on the in-breath, raise the hands up. As the hands get up about the level with your head, start spreading your arms apart as you bend back. You let out the breath to bend back more, bring the arms out to the horizontal position at the sides, look at the ceiling. On an in-breath, carefully lift up, keeping the arms out at the sides. And on the out-breath, lower the arms and hands down towards your feet. Bend forward, downward, into the downward stretch. Try to keep the legs straight. You can touch the feet. The little bones in the lower spine stretch out. And begin standing up again. Turn the palms outward. Repeat it in breath. Lift the hands up. Spread the arms apart as you bend back. Let out the breath. Bend back more. In breath up. Out breath, downward stretch. Once more, standing up, turn the palms outward, in breath, hands up and out to the sides. In breath, lift up, out breath, hands down to the floor, try to hold a downward stretch longer. Little bones in the lower spine stretch out. The blood coming down into your head. On an in-breath, carefully lift up. Bring the hands together at your chest. On the out-breath, hands back to the sides. Feel the whole body. Feel the outline of the body. And feel that increased aliveness in the whole body. Try to imagine and feel that as a healing energy, the awakened life force, oxygenated blood. Feel those subtle vibrations, present moment vibration. Remember standing. Okay, now let us come back to our seats. Get ready for the sitting meditation. Okay, friends, so get comfortable in your sitting posture. Start to sit straight, aligning your back with the back of the head, the neck vertebrae, the spinal vertebrae joined in a straight line. Keep the chin lifted up, level with the floor. Just close the eyes. Try to find the center of gravity of the head and spine over the hips. Just imagine that you are balancing a tall stack of books on top of your head in order to sit straight. Keep the chin lifted up level. Close the eyes. Feel the eyes and the sockets. And just gaze into the eyes. You should be able to kind of feel the vague outline of the body, the head on top, the arms at the sides, the feet tucked underneath, the clothing touching the skin. If you can, just try to hold that outline of the body in the mind's eye. And then begin some deep, slow breathing again, like you did in the yoga session. Try to take 2 or 3 seconds to breathe in, a 3-part breath. Hold the air in the lungs for 2 or 3 seconds. Then slowly breathe out. Try to feel the last bit of air go out of the lungs. Then the next in-breath. Just continue taking several more deep, slow breaths like that. 3-part breaths. Cultivating this mindfulness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Hold the breath in a moment. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Now we're going to count the breaths from 1 to 10 to try to develop a more continuous concentration on the breathing. I'll do the counting for you. Just try to follow that with your breathing and your concentration. With the next expanding in breath, mentally count to 1. Hold the breath a moment. And with the contracting out breath, also count to 1. Feel the last bit of air go out of the lung. And the next in breath, 2. Out breath, 2. In 3. out 3, in 4, out 4, in 5, out 5, in 6, out 6, in 7, out 7, in 8, out 8, in 9, out 9, in 10, out 10. Now discontinue the counting. Let your breathing return to its uncontrolled, shorter, irregular rhythm. Continue to feel it. Your attention focused in the center of the body. Feel the residual expanding and contracting movements in the abdomen, rib cage, your chest. Just make that the primary object of your concentrated awareness. Just knowing when the breath is coming in and knowing when the breath is going out. You know it by feeling it, feeling the sensation. Or feel where the clothing rubs against the skin of the stomach, rib cage, or chest as it expands or contracts. There's several different sensations. Or feel the pause between the breath and the out breath. If you still have a lot of thoughts, you can try counting your breaths again by yourself. See if you can make it to 10 without your mind getting lost. If the mind does get lost while counting, you can't remember, start over the counting at 1. So it's a challenge that you don't let your mind get lost in thought. Otherwise, just silently observe the breathing. Making these brief mental reminders of in sitting, out, out, sitting, the ongoing continuous present moment of the body. In sitting, out, out, sitting, counting the breath. Tune into the 4 phases of each breath cycle, expanding in breath and the pause, contracting out breath and the pause. Be alert for thoughts sneaking up into the mind. It's always coming back to the breathing, counting the breaths, remembering in sitting, out, out, sitting. restraining the mind from chasing after thoughts. Restraining the defilements by mindfulness. By applying the antidotes to the hindrance. Eliminating them by practicing the right effort. To endure the pain, let go of the thought. By developing mindfulness and concentration. The mind gets sluggish or too many thoughts, come back and do some deep, slow breathing to help keep the mind awake in the body. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. Letting the thoughts come and go in the back of the mind. Being alert for urges arising. The urge to move, enduring those unpleasant sensations. Developing more concentration and mindfulness. By seeing impermanence. Start to notice subtler and more sensations coming and going, arising and vanishing through the body. Subtler thoughts and urges arising in the back of the mind. It's gradually opening up to the flow of impermanent, seeing impermanence in the body and the mind, constantly changing sensations, thought. Whenever the mind holds on to a particular sensation or thought, gets carried away or reacts in it, identifies with it, an agitation, some kind of suffering arises. Struggling. Seeing the arising of suffering, and the mind identifies and clings to any particular sensation, thought, or sound. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. So many sensations continually arising and vanishing. Pleasure and pain arise and change. thoughts, perception, sounds, coming and going. Thoughts of I, me, of mine come and go. It's all just a continuous flow and flux and change of the five aggregates through this body and mind, through the awareness, present moment awareness. That's the seeing of impermanence. The seeing of suffering, if you try to grab a hold of any of those sensations with attachment or aversion. What feelings or thoughts arise based on that sound vibration? Sabbe sankara anicchati yada panyaya pasati atanibindati dukkhe yesamago visuddhiya. All conditioned things, the five aggregates of this body, mind, and world are impermanent. When one sees this with the eye of wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with suffering. This is the path to purity, to freedom. And thus spoke the Buddha. Now I invite you to join in chanting the word sadhu, to finish the meditation, do the repeating the chant of sadhu 3 times, do the chanting slowly on a long out breath. So take a deep breath. Sadhu. Sadhu. Mindfully place your hands at the edge of your knees and take one more deep breath as you breathe in. Stretch your head back and pull the hands on your knees to arch your spine backward. And lift the head up on an in-breath, and on the out-breath, press the chin to the top of the chest. Stretch the neck vertebrae. Lift the chin up level on an in-breath. Relax on the out-breath. Put a smile on your face. Okay, friends. So I hope you're able to get at least some minutes of some mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. So keep up your practice during the week. Practice the M&Ms. Remember, mindfulness a day keeps dukkha away. So we'll see you here again next week. perhaps.
Thank you, Bhante.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
YR. Onto YR. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhante. Teruvan Saranay.
Thank you, Bhante.
Namo Buddhaya.
Namo
Thank you.
Buddhaya.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Buddhaya.
Thank you,
Bhante.
Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you.